Good evening, one and all. Welcome along to Season 2, Episode 118 of the UK Dallas Cowboys podcast. We were just having slight technical difficulties. I didn't think I was going to make it for the start of the show there. But I'm joined tonight by the Scottish trio of Paul Stewart, Graham Wilson, Lauren Callahan. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Not too bad, not too bad. The country's everyone's kind of starting to kind of get back to more of a normality here, so in a way. So, aye, not too bad.
Happy days. Yeah, you're coming out of lockdown as well, Paul, aren't you?
Was that, sorry?
You're coming out of lockdown now, aren't you? The two boys are already out.
Well, we're still in level 2 right now. Well, but business, other local businesses are still opening right now and that. So, but we're still getting that sense of normality, slowly coming back. But yeah.
And Lauren, you're close to second shot at this stage. Are you a vaccination?
Yeah, well, I had my first one a couple of weeks ago, so
yeah,
I'm getting closer, but don't know when it'll be. Royal Mail seems to be losing a hell of a lot of letters.
Well, funny that you mentioned that there, Lauren. Apparently, my appointment was last month. Yeah, so I contacted them, got it rescheduled, so it's now next week. So I was like, "Where's my envelope? Where was my mail?"
Yep.
So,
well, we got to make sure you're back in the States so that you can get on the telly again. You know, after.
Again, funny that you mentioned about the States. It's like the USA have now put the UK in the amber section now. That is big.
Yeah.
That is big for us that can actually potentially go to a game in the States this year. So I have got my hopes up because right now I've got my flight already booked on the day of the Tampa Bay versus Dallas game. I literally arrive in Houston 1 hour before the game starts. So I am literally would be going through the quarantine. I am going straight to the bar. So that'll be likely doing that. But the way how things are going right now, with how the USA and the UK are collaborating right now, and the way how they're distributing the vaccines and stuff like that, it won't be long. You might get the green light. You can actually safely travel over, but obviously you need to kind of have like a test 3 days prior before you're flying. That so for guys that are watching the show right now, if you are planning going, this is the opportunity you should be contacting Cowboys Experience, by the way.
Yeah,
there you go.
Our proud sponsors. And whilst we're on it, we'll pay the bills and give the guys a shout out.
UK Cowboys.
So, Graham, if you want to give the shout out, seeing as you haven't gotten a word in edgeways yet.
Well, if you're as excited as Paul is to try and get to a game this year, definitely book it through cowboysexperience.com. Mention UK Cowboys and get free stuff. Simple as that.
Don't be a clown. Get free stuff.
There we go, folks. In the immortal words of Rich Jones, do not be a clown. But it's been a quiet week this week. There hasn't been much in terms of news. There's been no roster maneuvers or anything like that happening this week. Lauren, I think you just before we came on, you highlighted a couple of points coming out of Mike McCarthy's press conference. So if you want to give those couple of points, and we'll have a quick chat about them.
Right, there's been four major points that were lifted from the press conference. One is obviously, I think just as we went to air last week, Ben McAdoo, the former Giants offensive coordinator and the head coach at one point, has been taken on as a advisor to the team in the loosest sense of the word. And McCarthy was discussing his role, where basically he's going to be working for both the offensive and defensive coordinators.
What?
I can see Paul's.
Ben McAdoo.
Yeah, we signed him as a consultant last week. So
a consultant? What has he proved to be? Like he's fucking trash. Oh my god!
The joys of brand new information.
Yep. Next week, Don Taripo's joining
Don't you fucking dare.
the scouting department. No. There's been a few guys that have been under the weather this week, so it's given the Cowboys a chance to line people up out of position. So Tony Pollard has been taking some snaps at wide receiver, which obviously gives him a chance to see what he can do and hopefully get him on the field. I think we talked a couple of weeks ago that you could bring them on in a 2-back set and flex them out to one of the wide receivers out of the backfield and create a bit of confusion. So anything he can do at this point in time shows how valuable he will be to the team when the season's on the line. This week they've also been working on Micah Parsons working on the outside and coming in as a pass rusher. So they've been working on his pass rushing as well. So again, that's something that we can look at for the regular season as well. They'll be using them in a variety of roles.
Very good. So
I think that was all of it.
I think so. So anything you want to discuss there, gentlemen?
Not really sure what McAdoo's here for. It's like you've got your offensive-minded head coach, you've got your offensive coordinator, and then there's McAdoo, and it's like, hi, Ben. I mean,
well, I think one of the things where he was strong was where Kellen Moore is a bit weak, is that he was very good when the Giants managed to get into the red zone. He was very good at converting it in the red zone, but he obviously, the Giants didn't get into the red zone that often. So perhaps he could work with Kellen Moore and sort of refine the techniques that are used within the. Because I certainly think that's we've discussed before. I think that's where his weakness is, and anything we can do to improve that. If it also helps, if he can help with the defense as well, sort of giving presentations to the defense about what the upcoming opponents are going to be doing, and giving concepts within the offense, it will help the defense sort of focus what to look for, obviously, when they're going into games. So it's a multifaceted role that he's going to have, I think. How successful, I don't know.
I think you touched on a good point there in terms of the red zone, and like this will feed into what the bones of the show about. Obviously, it's our positional breakdown. We'll be talking about the offensive line, but in terms of our red zone execution, it has been poor for the last 2 or 3 years. And anything that will help out there is better than, I think Kellen has tried to be too cute at times and not done the decent thing. And Paul, I can see you itching there, and I think you're going to say what I'd say, so take it away.
Well, you kind of nailed it there. There's nothing really much for me to really add on, really. Moore that just seems to be kind of like, don't get me wrong, I think he's been great when it comes to actually moving the ball forward to the red zone, but when it gets to that red zone, it just seems to be like we're just kind of like in that weird stalemate, like, okay, are we going to run the ball, we're going to pass the ball, and we try and be too clever, and you said it well perfectly there, Brian. So, I think one of the other topics in regards to in relation to that is like we're really using Zeke enough when it comes to the red zone, or even Tony Pollard, for example, for third downs or whatever and stuff like that. So, and that's what Zeke thrives on. He's that powerful running back who will get you those yards, push the ball forward, and we didn't really utilize that enough, especially last season. So,
I think it's one of the underrated parts of Zeke's game is his ability to lean forward and get those extra yards or to barrel into contact.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we certainly talked about on the running back show that, you know, Zeke actually was getting hit after, you know, less than a yard of. So basically on his first step, because the offensive line was so poor last year, the defense was already in the backfield by the time the ball was getting handed off to him. He basically got a yard and then he was getting hit, but he still, I mean, obviously he had very few tackles for loss, or he was very rarely tackled behind the line of scrimmage. He always managed to power his way back to the line of scrimmage or even gain a couple of yards.
And that's another point you just kind of made as well. It's like, it's the offensive line. We had a nightmare with our O-line last season and it's like whatever loss of yards that we had there, we're trying to get that back to that line of scrimmage, like back to like second, like 3rd and 10, get back to that again, and then that next thing you know is like we end up making a crazy play and 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 9. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's got to stop.
Yeah, Graham, to bring you in there, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think personally the red zone issues have only really started to show up when we've stopped addressing offensive line and the talent on the offensive line. 2016, 2017, these issues weren't there simply because they would call a running play, give the ball to Zeke, and it's a touchdown. It was as simple as that. But when you stop putting talent or new talent on the offensive line, that's where it starts cracking, because we haven't put, in my opinion, we haven't put
the reinvestment back into the O-line. Yeah,
we haven't. We've spent it elsewhere. We've tried to spend it on defense. So, and you know, as soon as you start not looking after something, it will deteriorate. And obviously, it's a good segue because that's what we're talking about tonight. But years ago, you could go see if it was 2nd and 10 or 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal. Just go and get another beer because it's a touchdown. Nowadays, it's a roll of the dice.
Roll of the dice, more of a roller coaster. You just don't know what to expect.
Yeah. It's true, but I think as we say, let's jump straight into it. I mean, this is about the offensive line, and you can see there Paul is pulling up the comments, and they're starting to come in. You know, folks, get involved, get engaged with us. Send us your questions, send us your thoughts on the offensive line, what you would like from them this year, how you think it can be improved, where there's holes in the offensive line, because these are topics we're going to cover. We were kind of discussing before we went live, and there are concerns that we would have. But if we start with the starting offensive line, I mean, for you guys, is the starting 5 set in stone as it is right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've got Touchwood, you've got Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, and Zach Martin returning. You've got Tyler Biadish is the only actual centre listed on the roster at the moment. We've got a couple of guys that are obviously the draft pick, the 7th round draft pick, Matt Farniok. He's a jack of all trades along the line. Connor Williams, you know, he was the only one that lasted all 16 games last year. So good chance. And you know, again, he was listed as being a bit poor last year, but you actually think the year before he finished he didn't finish the season because he suffered an ACL injury. And normally that can take an offensive lineman at least a year to come back from. So obviously we should see him a bit stronger this year. He's already come out and stated that this year his goal is to get to the Pro Bowl this year, which is a lofty goal for him, I think. But potentially that's doable. The only other one that could probably come in is Connor McGovern, and we saw a fair amount from him last year as well. So, and I think he was serviceable at least.
If we start with the two starting tackles in terms of Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith, and Paul, I'll throw this one to you. I mean, those two guys are set in stone. They're coming back off more or less a year off. You know, what are your hopes? What are your expectations from those two?
Play the whole season. Simple as that. And Graham feels is exactly as strongly as I do on this one. If we can have both of these guys for the whole season, great. Because as much as I hate to admit it, not hate to admit it, but these guys are irreplaceable. I can't even say irreplaceable. Like you can't replace these guys unless you were to get, like, for example, if we were to draft Penny Sewell, for example, back in the draft, if we were to get him, you would have someone in place to go in and actually take up the spot, either it's going to be left or right tackle, my personal opinion. But we don't actually necessarily, because we're looking at the roster here and we're going to go through all these guys and that and one by one, but there's not really one there. Like, if one of them goes down, what is the percentage we're going to feel confident of that position? It's very low. Let's be honest. I mean, there's a reason why Tyron and Lyle have been like they've been multiple Pro Bowls. Like Lyle Collins, even though Lyle Collins never got drafted, but he was a first round talent. Like he was going to be like a top 10 overall in the draft that year. But obviously, personal things and stuff like that, and all the allegations and stuff, and we ended up hitting a gold mine with him, getting him undrafted. So, but obviously Tyron first round draft pick as well. This is the weirdest part. Well, not weirdest part, the scariest part. This is his 10th season in the NFL. We drafted him when he was 20 years old from USC. It's true. Yeah, crazy.
I'm just going to bring up a comment here, and more yoga for Tyron. I think, I mean, for most of us over on this side of the world, soccer is a huge part of our sporting lives, and for me as a Manchester United supporter, I know the benefits of yoga that it had for Roy Keane, for Ryan Giggs, and extending their career. And
that's a touching name he's mentioned on the stream right now.
But in terms of their longevity and recovering from injuries, yoga as part of their training and regime seem to work. So you would hope. Graham, what happens when Tyron Smith goes down in December?
Listen, I've stated many times on this podcast since the draft.
Every time, Graham, you've mentioned it.
Write it down. You can 3rd of June 2021. Josh Ball will start at least one game in December.
Oh God! Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've had a look. I don't know if you've had a look at our schedule, but there are a lot of NFC East games in there.
And the most vital games as well.
Let me just remind myself. Yep, we're in Philadelphia, we're in New York, and we host Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Now, tell me that's not a frightening prospect that you're going to throw Josh Ball in there against Chase Young.
Yeah, and Steve, our good friend Steve agrees with you, mate. Yep.
It was the reason Rich and I championed an offensive tackle at number 10. This is the reason. And I said, look, if you don't get somebody in day 1 or day 2, don't bother.
Yeah.
And they've gone and picked one in day 3. Now, if Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith can pull the rabbit out of the hat and play 17 games, let's not forget 17 games, not 16.
Right. Yeah.
Brilliant. But 3rd of June, 2021, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can go to all the yoga classes in the world. You can spend all the time you like in the gym. But I'm sorry, Chase Young is not in the Dallas Cowboys facility at the moment. He's getting ready for us in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that, to me, that rubber stamped that Boxing Day this year. Chase, if I was a gambling man, that's what I would say. Chase Young against Josh Paul. That's scary.
And on a lighter note, I'm going to add a wee bit positive on this, but not so much. Not in Tyron, but I will make a wee comment. I know that we jump, but what you're saying is absolutely scary. But if there's one thing I'm really, really excited for is the shape and condition that Lyle Collins is already in going in.
Yes,
like what a transformation he's already transpired so far. Like because we knew, obviously. Last season before, with the injury that, he kind of blown up a bit, but he's really leaned down. It's quite frightening, and he looks jacked for an offensive lineman, jacked. So that prospect is quite exciting, and before anything that happened, I can't even recall. I don't know if you guys can verify, but it's Lyle ever missed any games due to injury or whatever on that?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it'd be very interesting to see how he kind of evolves from that adversity from last year, not playing one single snap, all that type of stuff, but really putting in the grind, getting himself back into shape before pre-season. So I'm really looking forward to see when OTAs, full contact happens during training camp. I'll be really interested to watch and see what happens.
Yeah.
And
you did mention the fact this Lyle was out of shape going into last season's OTAs.
That's right, yeah.
He was a little bit overweight. He seems to have followed the Tyron Smith, getting jacked, getting totally cut. He's not carrying excess weight. He's ripping the gym out of it. I mean, that's great to see already.
And here's the thing: when Lyle was playing guard, he was he is probably the most. Trying to find the right words today is actually quite strong, and that's not lightly at all. Yeah, athletic is definitely one of them, but it's just the way he moves. It's just poetry in motion, pretty much. For him to get if he was a pulling guard, he is up in that backfield, smashing linebackers and putting them on their backside, left, right, and center. Because remember that he did that in his rookie season. I can't remember what team it was against, but basically he just drove these linebacker. I think it was 10 yards.
I think it was the Giants.
Might have been. But can you imagine with that athleticism being in the right tackle position? Jeez, and that shape he's going to be in training with Tyron. Oofed.
I just want to go back to the point I made. I'm not hating on Collins and Smith. I'm not. I'm hating on their bodies. I'm hating on the lower. It's just
the downside of playing offensive line. It's so much wear and tear.
To go back to Collins' stats, he missed a lot of the 2016, and he missed one in 2019, and obviously last season. But 2017 and 18, he played the whole season.
Right.
So it's very, very unlike him. But this is his 7th year, so
yeah.
It's kind of funny that you kind of when we're talking about the longevity. I'm going to take another player as an example, a non-Cowboys player, and I don't think he's ever missed a game. It's Joe Thomas for the Browns.
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
No,
he didn't.
Until he retired. He retired a couple of years ago.
No, but what I'm trying to say. I think he retired. He retired early because he knew his body just could not But I think during his playing career, I'm pretty sure he hardly missed a game. Pretty much.
I think he went about 250 games without missing a snap. So
Yeah.
And that will just take there's going to be a day it will just completely hit you, and it's like, I can't do this anymore. And
Yep.
Joe could easily played an extra couple of seasons if he could have, really, but he knew himself. And kind of goes back to your point, Graham. It's like, we're not hating the players, we're just hating the fact that it's just so much like impact injuries, all that, and it just takes such a downfall in all these players, especially on the offensive line. And this is why it's the most demanding in terms of getting numbers for any team. Try and get like a number of 15 offensive linemen before training camp. It's actually quite difficult nowadays, because if you try and bring players in, they're going to be half injured anyway, you know?
Yep. And I think one of the things with Lyell, we talk about how he turned up for camp overweight, but this injury that he had last year was actually a result of the 2019 season, and they'd advised to just rehab it rather than go for surgery or anything like that at the end of the season. That obviously, affected the way he was able to train during the off season. Coupled with COVID, obviously, but he wasn't able. Maybe was favouring the hips a little bit, so wasn't able to do sprints as much or whatever. And then obviously that affects you're still eating as if you're training properly and what have you, and then you're not training as hard, so you put a couple of pounds on, you put another couple of pounds on the next week, and you turn up for camp overweight, and everything snowballs again. So, this year he's healthy from the get-go. You can see it now that he's slimmed down as a result of the training that he's been through. It just takes one freak injury, and you can be out for a long period of time. But we have to assume that at least Collins is going in for the majority of the season and should be a factor this year.
Yeah. If we kind of move to the backup tackles, and Graham, you brought up the name there in terms of Josh Ball.
Do we have to?
I'm afraid so. We'll have to work our way down through it. But I mean, look, we're not going to get into Josh Ball, the off-field player. It's not something we want to discuss on this program. But Josh Ball, the football player, was likely a day 2 talent. Is there anything you've seen, or from any of the three of you, is there anything you've seen in any of the highlights or clips that you've seen of him that suggests he could be more than a serviceable backup?
From what I've watched so far, he has a good kick step for pass protection and a good striking hand. So, I mean, if you're playing a position, you need to have as a fundamental to have anyway. But I mean, from what I see, he seems to be getting himself into the right position at the right time. But I think it's the only downfall is the running game. I think so. That's my only concern with Josh Ball is when it comes to the running game, especially if you're. On you go, Lauren. I think you know what you're going to say.
Yeah, he's as you say, he's got a good kick step. One of the positives about him is he gets his hands up and into the defender as quickly as possible. It's something when he came out of college, and I think one of the opening interviews that they had with him, they were talking that Tyron Smith is his role model in terms of how he plays on the field. And obviously we know that Tyron Smith's very good at getting his hands up as soon as possible, and that's something Josh Ball's been doing. As you say, I mean, if it wasn't for Josh Ball off the field, we probably would be talking that Josh Ball could have been a late first, maybe even second or third rounder. So as long as he keeps his nose clean, and we don't know the whole story, and we probably never will know the whole story about what happened. But as long as he keeps, he's learned from his mistakes, and can meet the ability that he has on the field, then just give him an opportunity, and maybe this is our position fortified for another couple of years after. Obviously, we part ways with one of the tackles.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned it. I'm just going to bring this to light. It's not exactly the Dallas Cowboys have done something controversial when it comes to bringing a player in. Like, for example, Greg Hardy. That's the most obvious one. So, but I mean, it's got to the point now where it's just kind of go, oh, here we go again, So, but it's now got to the point now, like, we just kind of block that side of things, and we just do actually now focus on the player. But I can understand from, like, for us, we just, Mike's alive. Hey. Right, but you know what I mean, boys? It's like, for us, we need to kind of think outside of just being a fan. We need to analyze the player itself. And from what we've seen so far, we are liking what Josh Ball can do when you extract all the bullshit pretty much outside.
Yeah.
So, and the more I kind of do think about it, I do agree what Graham's prediction is going to be. I think he will play one game as a starter. I really do.
Graham, you don't look convinced by what we're selling.
No, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because offensive tackles, in my opinion, offensive tackles are one of the easiest positions to evaluate coming out of college, because you can get so much from their measurables. You really can. Are they tall enough? Are they strong enough? What's their arm length like? To my knowledge, you don't become a better player in the NFL than you don't become so much better in the NFL than you were at college, because if anything, the pass rush is, as we know, a whole lot tougher. So why would you become a better player playing against better opposition? You would dominate poorer opposition and then learn to cope with the better player. That's why we see them going so high. We see offensive linemen fly off the board because they're so rare and they're so valuable. I mean, nobody comes to mind unless there's a certain issue, like Lyle Collins, for instance. We got him and we shouldn't have done. He was a first-round talent, but certain circumstances outside of his talent led to that.
Yeah, and it ended up being a whole lot of BS.
Yeah.
End of the day.
Yeah. So if Josh Ball ends up being the next Lyle Collins, brilliant.
Yeah.
But I don't see offensive tackles becoming so much better players in the NFL. And if you're doing it, if you're not doing it in college, why would you all of a sudden start producing more against the top 36 or top 64 pass rushes in the world?
That's a really good fair point, because I can't really recall like third round tackles, fourth round tackles that are undrafted to really like be consistent through their NFL career. They've always kind of maybe had a good couple of games, but they've just kind of like dropped off and stuff like that. And you're thinking, like we were saying, like Joe Thomas earlier for the Browns, Eric Fisher now he's no longer with this Kansas City now, is he not?
No.
He's away now.
He's gone. Yeah.
Right. But still, he's still a first-round talent. He's played all those years in the NFL, being very consistent. Again, first-round talent of an offensive tackle, and it's what Graham's kind of proven there.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a question here to Lauren, because just touching on what you're saying there about, say, second and third round talents. I mean, bar Larry Allen, is there an outstanding second or third round talent that you can remember that went on to have a long career?
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, I mean, a guy like Nate Newton, and he played tackle as well as guard, but I mean
The
he was,
whole offensive line back in the 90s for the Cowboys.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Tuaney, Stepnoski.
yeah. And I mean, the step up. A lot of these offensive tackles, are hamstrung by what the scheme is in college that they play under, and obviously there can be, if they go to a more a scheme that's more commensurate with their skills and abilities, then that can help them improve in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You also have, if you're able to professional coaches for your off-season training. All the offensive linemen for the Cowboys at the moment are training with Big Duke Merriweather. And if you look at his social media feeds, Instagram and Twitter, he constantly posts videos of everybody training, and that's who Rashawn Slater was working with this year. And obviously, he transformed himself into obviously a top 15 pick in this draft this year. So being able to have professional coaches that can train with you during the off season and build up on your weaknesses, so that when you go to report to camp and OTAs and everything like that, that can help you. And we did see last year, obviously, Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight started the season. We were thinking, God, you've basically got a couple of trash cans out there blocking. Towards the end of the season, though, Terrence Steele was actually doing a serviceable job. He didn't give up any sacks in the last, I think it was 8 games. Yes, he needs to.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot less. I didn't realize it was as much as that.
Yeah. So.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I know we're talking about like Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight, but if there's one thing about those guys that played the majority of last season, them going into camp this year is just going to be so much more vital, because they've got now that experience under the belt under the most extreme circumstances.
Yeah,
like being thrown under the bus. Now, like even though the pressure's a little bit off, but at least they can now take that experience and actually have that little bit more support. Well, you could say a little bit more competition. We know who our starters are going to be, but at least now, kind of going forward, like they know what is expected to be playing in that offensive line for Dallas, especially in our division against like the Eagles, the trash team from Washington and New York's defensive lines.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Steele was a rookie last year, so we always talk about offensive and defensive linemen needing a year when they come out of college to put a little bit of sand in their pants, as Mike says. Get yourself in the strength and conditioning program within the NFL for a year. So I haven't seen anything of how Terrence Steele looks this year, but if he's done the same sort of job that we saw with Connor Williams from year 1 to year 2 in terms of physique, then there's nothing to suggest that he's not going to come back a hell of a lot stronger this year and be a candidate for the next in line. Should somebody go down?
Yeah.
Well, ESPN have got him ranked 4th. I've got him ranked as the 4th right tackle.
Yeah.
So
I was going to bring that point up, Graham. So does that kind of show what is now available to us in terms of talent? That obviously we know who our 2 starters are. The backups to them are Josh Ball, Ty Nsekhe, and then you have Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight, who are, say, your 4th in emergency break glass in case of emergency type players. But those guys have played a full season of NFL football. How many other rosters in the league have their 4th choice players with a full year of experience?
Yeah, I get that, but it wasn't our choice to do that.
Yeah, that's
You know what
that's
I mean?
that,
Like
that's
we
a fair
were
point.
forced into that. It wasn't as
Yeah.
if, well, let's throw this guy Terence Steele in. It's right. Who's
Yeah.
next?
Well,
What's the
that's-
water boy doing right now?
Well,
You
that's
know,
the thing.
like-
That's the thing, Graham. It's next man up. Who's
Yeah.
willing to step up? And it seemed to be it was Terence Steele and Brandon Knight. They stepped up to the plate, even
Yeah.
though they made mistakes, but they stepped up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, I get
if you
I get that it's good that Steele and Knight have got a vast amount of experience from their first years, but if all goes to plan, they won't see the field this year.
That's right. Yeah.
So
No, you're right.
it depends on what way you look at it. You can't bring them in to develop them and say, right, guys, sorry, Smith and Collins are back away and sit down again. It needs to be one or the other. Like you go with the developmental guy and move on from one of our studs, or you let the stud take the field and hope that Knight and Steele can.
It's funny that you mention that. So when it goes into training camp, I'm really going to see. I'm really curious to see what is the expectation of number of reps Tyron and Lyle are going to get going into camp, because you can't expect them to have 75% of all the snaps. You can't expect that. At least, I really want. Obviously, I want like every guy to have an opportunity to get some reps in, like even the guys that have no chance getting in, because who knows, there could be a wee diamond in the rough out there. You know, it doesn't matter if it's.
I hope it's low, Paul. I hope it's low, because they've had a couple of years in this system now with Kellen Moore as the coordinator. They know who the guy is on the inside of them. Zeke's still the running back. Dak is still the quarterback. So a great deal would have changed.
That's the one. Dak,
No.
and that's the thing for Dak. It's like Dak needs to get used to every single one of these offensive linemen, every single one of them, and that's the hardest part for his position. Like he can still have his invincible shield, so to speak, of Collins, Smith, Zach Martin, and whoever the other two are going to be. We don't know yet. This is what we're going to talk about. But when you took the two main pillars of your tackles away, Dak needs to get used to it. In those circumstances, they're not going to be there. So he needs to get rotated into all the different snaps, all the different offensive linemen. So he feels comfortable and knows what to expect from his players. So there's that as well.
I mean, what you've got to think as well. Obviously, we're sitting here saying that Steele wasn't very good last year, blah blah blah. But imagine if we were the UK Packers site, and they're discussing who's going to be blocking for Jalen Love when Bakhtiari goes down or something like that.
You guys have no idea the fun I've had in the past week. It's been tremendous. It's been absolutely brilliant. There's see if any of you have got the Firefox browser, right? There's a thing called, Paul will know about this. There's a thing called Web Developer Tools, and you can actually change the headline. So see the headlines I've put on web pages and then sent them to my dad. He's been off to the 49ers. He's been off to the Broncos. He's been off to the Redskins. He's torn his ACL. He says he's sitting out the whole. Oh, brilliant! Well, endless fun.
It's before we move to the interior line. It's actually quite interesting, Graham. I got a notification once we were on.
Wait, Lauren, can you say that one liner again?
What? Who's going to be blocking for Jalen Love when Bakhtiari goes down injured?
Shit, that fucking failed. The fucking adverts. There we go.
Well,
sorry, where were we?
we got slightly off track there, so we're 45 minutes into the show. Again, folks, don't be afraid to send in your questions, your comments, your queries. Let us know what you think about the offensive line, where you would like to see improvements. Paul, go first.
You said we're just about going into the guards. I think we still need to kind of just quickly go through the names of all the other tackles we've got in.
Go for it. Yeah.
So, we'll do it like a yes, no, whatever when I mention the name. So Cam Irvin.
He left in free
He's gone.
agency.
According to ESPN, is still on the roster, apparently.
No, he left in free agency. He got a
Did he?
$3 million deal.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cam Irvin,
years
Cam
somewhere.
Fleming got great deals after a year injured with the Cowboys.
Right. Okay. So we've got Ty Neshke,
Yeah.
from the Browns. Eric Smith I believe he played for the Giants. I believe
he played for the Bears as well.
The Bears. Obviously with Tyron Steele. We just talked about Mitch Hyatt.
Mitch Hyatt was from Clemson. He was injured all last season. He spent the prior season on the practice squad, so he might be a practice squad type guy.
We've also brought
if he survives.
We've also brought the developmental international player, Isaac. Isaac. Yeah. So I really did like the look at him from last year. Like, even though he was put into the future contract deal, because that's kind of more of a mandatory thing to do now when you've signed an international, but put them always in a future contract type of thing. But I actually quite liked what he was to do. I mean, he's 6'7", 320 pounds. He's pretty much nearly the same measurables as Tyron, but obviously he's not as jacked. So
and he actually in the Canadian Football League, they had their international draft a couple of months ago as well, and he's actually been picked up by the Calgary Stampeders as well. So
that would be a good experience for him as well.
If it doesn't work out for the Cowboys, he'll be going up north in Calgary.
And who else I missed? No, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
So if we move into the real big bones and big question around our right guard and who's going to play right guard next season. I don't think we need to discuss our right guard at all. I mean, our all-world guard, Zach Martin. I mean,
future Hall of
injury
Famer.
permitting, it's not worth even discussing right guard.
No, like you can't fault the guy. He is one of the best guards ever. My personal opinion, and the fact is, we were slaughtered. I think all of us were kind of like, we picked a guard over Johnny Football at the time. But we were proved wrong. We were all proved wrong, and it turned out to be one of the best picks we ever did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I think that was the draft where I think, obviously Johnny Football was who a lot of people were penning, but I think Stephen's preferences were Aaron Donald, Ryan Shazier, and Zach Martin.
A lot of big names.
3 better names you couldn't have picked from that draft class, and that draft class was loaded.
Yeah,
well, I'll bring it up just to see if there's any more names we can mention where we're going ahead of us.
I think Darnold just went picked before us as well. Otherwise, he would have been in the.
Shazier was before us.
Shazier, right? So
Donald was within 5 or 6 picks, I believe.
Yep.
And that was the same draft where you Jadeveon Clowney, Khalil Mack. That's a class that's going to have a lot of Hall of Fame from it.
So you've got the Jake Matthews, Mike Evans, Anthony Barr, Taylor Lewan, who went to the Tennessee Titans, Odell Beckham, Kyle Fuller, CJ Mosley. Who else do we have? D-Law, we got in the second round. Joe Bantunio for the Browns, the guard, offensive tackle for them. I'm trying to think of Devante Adams, Jarvis Landry. I mean, Jesus, tons of names in this. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But I suppose, as we say, look, there's no point even talking about right tackle unless Zach gets injured.
Right guard.
Right guard. Yeah, you can tell I've had a couple of beers. But look, let's move to the talk at left tackle. And shout out to Big Wheel there,
No,
Lloyd.
no.
Left guard.
Yeah.
What was in that beer?
Oh, fuck knows. We're kind of strong.
It's only Heineken, Jesus. I'm on the IPA tonight.
No, Lloyd, we are not doing this.
No.
Oh.
No.
Like, Lloyd, I know you just had a Facebook ban. Do you want a UK Cowboys ban for that comment? Jesus.
It's great. Great to see though the Big Wheel has great sense of
Oh,
humor
the Big
there to
Wheel.
bring something like that in.
I just hope to God I can get a grab a beer with Big Wheel when I get over there. Hopefully, please God.
But look, moving to the left guard
There we go.
position, Connor Williams is the incumbent. Conor McGovern is the backup at both left and right guard. This season is huge for both players. Connor Williams is out of contract at the end of the season. Conor McGovern is a year from finishing his rookie contract, and we don't know whether either of them will be picked up. So, discussed.
If I was to sum up Conor McGovern, he's just there by default. That's it.
I couldn't put it any better.
It's like it's the best we've got. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you can't question his work ethic, but he gets outclassed quite easily from like players they wouldn't even expect, like second stringers and stuff like that. Like push him down 5 years down beyond the line of scrimmage and stuff like that. You're like, can he let that happen? And it seems to break the O line even more so. So that's it. But he's just literally there by default. I don't know if it's because we picked him we picked him in the second round that year, and it's the whole moral. It's like, oh, he's a second round draft pick, he should be there, or that type of no. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. You know.
Yeah. The one thing with Connor Williams is that he tends to get too high out of his stance. He doesn't bend, keep his knees bent, and keep the power base as we talked about before. If you're able to keep your knees with your knees and your hips, you're in a sort of Z. You look like you're the letter Z. That gives you your power base. Maybe it's because he was a tackle in college that obviously he's needing to kick step out and everything like that. But when you've got guys on either side of you, you've got to use that power. Obviously, we saw him make a good attempt at. He completely transformed himself physically, year 1 to year 2. A lot, got a lot of people surprised at the way he rebuilt himself in that off season. As I said earlier, I mean, obviously year 2 he suffered that injury to his ACL, and maybe that affected him last year. So hopefully, particularly with offensive line, it can actually take another a full calendar year to actually get into a position where you're back at where you were, let alone improving or anything like that. So, perhaps there's a possibility that he's going to be set the world on fire this year. But at the moment the writing's on the wall. I don't think he'll get a second contract unless it's a fairly minimum deal or cap friendly deal.
I don't know what your guys' thoughts are as well. It's like I always kind of felt as though that Connor Williams, even though he played mostly I think he played mostly tackle in his college days.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel as though he's still quite undersized. Like
I was going to make that point. Like for a guard, he's still under 300 pounds.
Yeah,
Zach Martin, the other side of the line, is 320 pounds.
Isn't Zach Martin like 285, 290, something like that. Like,
No, Zach's 320.
No, I'm talking about Williams.
Oh, Connor Williams, yeah, he is. He's very undersized for a guard.
Yeah, so that's one of my main concerns as well. It's like he just hasn't got the weight distribution to start forcing people back. So I'm that's what I'm quite worried about.
He's on the Cowboys. He's on the Cowboys roster on the official site. He's listed at 298 this year. So again, that sounds like he's put a bit of beef on as well. I think there was talk. Obviously, we were screaming for it last year that when Lyell went down and Tyrone went down as well, why hadn't we kicked him out? Again, it was discussed on a podcast a couple of weeks ago that perhaps again this ACL probably hindered their willingness to move him out to tackle. So again, perhaps he'll have this position flex this year that should anything happen, again we could potentially move him out and play him at a tackle. Again, as we said, we saw a lot of Connor McGovern last year as well, so potentially he can come in and take that position. I can see Graham's getting a bit antsy about this, but.
Graham, before I make the case for Connor Williams getting a second contract, say what you're going to say, because I have reasoning behind this. But Graham, take it away there.
Tell you what, the pair of them are so lucky that we have so many issues on defense. That's all I will say. Both of them are extremely lucky. Because,
default.
While we were talking about here's a stat for you. While we were talking about the tackles, I went through the picks from this year's draft. Right, there were 7 offensive linemen off the board by the time we picked Kelvin Joseph, and there were 11 offensive linemen off the board at pick 51. When Sam Cosme went to Washington. Now, if you're not gonna, that's 1/5 of the picks are offensive line.
And don't forget the whole debauchery, the fact that we missed out getting the guy from Wisconsin, Whitewater.
Yeah,
one pick away from getting him.
That's right. I won't start on that. We've only got half an hour of the show left. Do you know what? I'm going to start on it. Why did we use all those draft picks? There is no way all our draft picks are going to make this team this year. Absolutely no chance. Did we end up with 11 picks?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're thinking like a fifth of the team are going to be rookies. They're going to be draft picks. Not a chance.
Well, put it this way.
We should have packaged up and gone to get who we wanted. But we never moved. To my knowledge, we never moved.
No, we never moved. No.
Didn't
well,
move.
We moved back. We moved back in the first round.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: we didn't do much in free agency to help us out with that. So that kind of actually increases the chances of these guys actually maybe getting game time. Who knows?
My thinking with McGovern and with Williams is that it runs along the lines of Collins and Smith. The Cowboys front office have basically said this year we're gonna roll the dice with the offensive line. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed that the 5 of them stay healthy for the whole season, and we're gonna try and address our defense and go for a championship. Because their kind of devotion to bringing in backups and bringing in alternatives shows that they want to address defense, and they're quite happy to just keep fingers crossed on offense. I mean, like to Paul's point right at the start of the topic, they're okay. They're okay, and
they have the
show that our okay levels start when we don't pick first-round offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't pick. We're not picking stick-ons. We're picking guys that could come in and do a job. Okay, guys that we can try and develop. We're putting offensive tackles at guard, undersized. We're starting to move the focus away from the offensive line. And here we are sitting with no backup centre and 2 left guards who are, let's be kind, mediocre.
So
They are. Are either of them ever going to see a Pro Bowl? No.
I'm going to jump in here, right? And I did make the point. I'm going to make a case for Connor Williams, right? And you can accuse me of putting my Texas Longhorns hat on, but I have firmly taken it off.
You and Longhorns? Never.
Right. In 2018, Connor Williams came in, played with Tyron Smith outside of him and Joe Looney inside of him. In 2019, he looked better because he had Tyron outside of him and Travis Frederick inside of him.
Agreed.
In 2020, he had a trash can and another trash can. He was the senior guy on the line all last season, and he was bar Zach Martin, he was the best lineman we had.
And that says it all.
He played through adversity last year, and he also played through adversity coming off of an ACL tear, which we've said multiple times takes a year to recover from. So I think it's unfair to judge Connor Williams in terms of that. I do agree he doesn't have enough sand in his pants. He can get bull rushed quite a bit, but he has a season to prove himself.
That's just what I was kind of saying. It's like you cannot deny the work effort that Connor Williams does do. He does put everything into it. Like, he is a Cowboys fan, and he always wanted to play for us. Like, you'll put that more beyond than anything. But his physical attributes do let him down quite a lot. And sometimes his, I don't know what it is. I think he doesn't trust the guys, like the trash cans that you politely speak about, like, because they're like, they might be not doing the call signs like of who their blocking alignment is properly. We don't know. We don't know the conversation what happens in that offensive line. So that is actually quite a good fair point that you just made there. Like, for all of us, we've all made fair points on this. Like, but we do realize that we can all agree on it's like this year Williams needs to step up. That is God-given fact. He needs to step up if he wants to remain a Cowboy. That end off.
Yeah.
And I know, Graham. I know. Like, but because we haven't addressed guard overall in terms of getting players in and that, we're trying to like, but with the contract situation, it's gonna like. I'm just hoping it lights a fire in his arse, pretty much. If we can, with Tyron back, but my main concern is the centre position, which we're just about to cover. But if Connor Williams or whoever it is that decides to play at the left guard position, and that seems to be, I tend to think that's the most important one, because how many times do we normally play run the ball to the left? More than 50%. It's like we hardly do it because it's the way how Dak hands the ball off. And it always seems to be go more to the left-hand side based on how things work. It's always over. I think the stats is over 50% going left anyway. So, but Williams, McGovern, step up, boys.
Yeah,
it's a contract year. You need to give it all. Put the work in. Don't get bullish. Don't get bullied. Step up. I want to see pancakes. I want pancake Sundays all day long. But are we going to see it? That remains on you guys.
Yeah. I can see we're still not selling you on this at all, Graham.
It's not selling it. I'm just like I'm not trying to sell it. This is what I'm expecting from these guys.
Yeah.
Like I'm on the same boat as Graham on this.
Yeah.
But I do agree what you're saying as well, Brian.
Yeah.
Like I agree with everyone's points on this. I just want those two guys to really step it up. Whoever's going to play that guard position needs to put in more than 100% effort, more than ever before. That's it. End of story.
Yeah, I mean, I've played all 5 positions on the offensive line. As you go further into the offensive line, moving from tackle, moving from tackle to guard to center. There's so much more that you've got to pick up on pre-snap reads, combos with the guard, combos with the tackle, combos with the center, calls, everything. You've got to pick up on these things, and it's. I always remember we used to be a very good counter team. I played one full season playing tackle, went in for one series playing guard. Ran the counter play. I ran it as a tackle instead of as a guard, and it was one of the few times we actually ended up getting tackled in the backfield because I'd missed my block, because I'd missed my assignment, because I was thinking as a tackle and not as a guard. So, and as Brian says, when you've got guys that are coming, how many different offensive lines did we have last year? I think it was something like 11.
I think the combination was roughly between 11 and 13. I can't remember the exact number, but I think you're right. Was it higher than that?
Higher. I think at one stage there was 21 different combinations.
Shut up.
Yeah. Like, don't forget, Tyron went down early. Zach Martin played right guard, right tackle. Conor McGovern played all 3 interior line positions. Joe Looney played centre guard. There was
Byadish as well.
Yeah, Byadish played a couple of guard spots as well as centre. So I think I remember hearing something like between 16 and 21.
Yeah,
but I think we've kind of we're about to segue into it. So look, let's start talking about the centre position.
Well, we've actually missed one guy out. We've missed one guy out, and that's the guy we drafted. It was the Matt
Farniuk. I was going to include him in the centre chat because he's been primarily taking snaps at centre. I know he's marked down as a right guard, but I think he's primarily centre.
And this goes back to Graham's point is the fact we've only got 3 guards in our roster right now. 3 guards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just trying. I'm doing a head count right now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 13 offensive tackles is in the roster right now for the Cowboys, and we've got 3 guards. That's not right. It's not right.
I think the plan is obviously with the signing of Josh Ball or drafting of Josh Ball. Brandon Knight this year will be switching into guard, so I think he's potentially your 4th one. And then Farniok has come out and said that when he was drafted, he was told he was an offensive lineman, and be prepared to play all 5 positions if you're called on. So we've already seen him taking snaps at center, but he has played all 5 positions in college, and I think that'll be the plan to have him as a jack of all trades. You certainly hear about how they like this position flex. You're disagreeing with me, Brian.
Lauren, you're hurting my soul, and I can see it's all over Graham's face. And I'm going to throw it right over to him. Talk about position flex and the fallacy that it is, Graham.
It's like, I mean, Quinn Miners went 98. We got Nishon Wright at 99.
Yeah. That's the guy I really wanted in our team. I really wanted him.
I'm going to say it honestly, lads. I don't think he's any good. I think you're going to see him bust huge.
But my point, Brian, is
Go on.
he is a centre. He's a recognised centre.
Yeah.
We're not.
And a
we're
mauler.
not
Absolute
turning up.
mauler as well.
We're not turning up 22 guys in the middle of a field and say, right, lads, who wants to play centre? Do you get what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
are we picking a centre, or are we shoving somebody in to play centre?
Yeah.
Because never underestimate the relationship between a centre and his quarterback.
Yeah.
And we're going, right, lads, it's an open competition. Who's going to win the backup job? And let's not forget, we've got a centre that struggled with shotgun.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like it's another neglected position. We've gone from Travis Frederick, one of the best centres in the league, if not the best, to a late round draft pick and nobody behind him.
It just seemed to be from 2018 onwards, we've drafted players that could potentially be somewhere else. If you know what I mean. Like we've had
I get you.
Like Colin Wales, prime example we were just kind of talking about. Like he was an offensive tackle, but we've been playing him as guard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Conor McGovern the following year played centre most of his career, or most of his college career at Penn State. Guard, sort of. Don't know, maybe he's a tackle. Maybe he's a centre.
This is the thing. They felt the need to bring in Biadish because Conor McGovern simply didn't win the centre job. It's as straightforward as that.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes all the way back to 2020 when we treated ourselves to 88.
CD Lamb.
We treated ourselves to CD Lamb instead of addressing a need.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we could have had a centre. I'm not saying we could have had a guard.
No.
But we could have at least moved to get a centre. We could have moved up or down the board to go and try and address it, as opposed to let's have a game of Madden and pick another wide receiver. Never mind the offensive line.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not mad about the pick anymore, but at the time I was quite pissed off because we didn't address a particular need, and that's why we haven't really. But we have done it this year in terms of, like, I know we're talking about offensive alignment and that, but I'm sorry I'm jumping it off the gun, but we did address a need that was well and needed in depth, and that was linebacker. Like Sean Lee retired. We don't know the situation. We've gone with bloody Jalen Smith, who's more interested in changing his bloody number rather than playing football right now. And there's now there's ifs, buts, no buts. We're talking about Leighton Van Der Esch getting traded or something like that now. We're like, what the hell's going on? So
that's been rubbished.
Yeah, that was just media.
Yeah,
rubbished that.
Yeah, so but you know what I mean though. So
yeah. I mean, you're like just like you're saying there, Paul. We did address linebacker. We do need a linebacker, obviously, because Sean Lee's retired. But I'm going to throw this into the conversation as well. Rashawn Slater went a pick later. Now, see if they'd gone Rashawn Slater at 11, we are not having this conversation.
I agree.
Rashawn Slater steps in left guard day one, and we never talk about McGovern or Williams again.
And the fact is, we drafted Jabril Cox.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to really summarize it, if we were to get Rashawn Slater, then have Jabril Cox in the same way that we just did it in that draft there, everyone would be like clapping their hands, like we've addressed all like those wee intricate needs that we really do need. But you could say like don't get me wrong, we definitely addressed defense, definitely. But in terms of something that really did need, it was the more depth and structure for the offensive line. We needed the reinvestment back into that, and we missed out on that completely. Not only just in the draft, but in free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing about Tyler Biadasz is that he's not exactly chump bait. He was the Remington Award winner for the best centre in college in 2019 when he came out.
Yeah,
He obviously, after that 2019 season, he'd actually had an arthroscopic surgery on his AC joint in the shoulder. So that affected again what he could do strength wise. And obviously, so that showed up in his testing pre-draft. But again, you would expect a Remington Award winner to be a high pick. And as for shotgun snaps, I mean that's something that just it's something that Wisconsin never did. I mean, obviously it's the one sort of fallacy about our favorite movie Draft Day is that Wisconsin do not run from shotgun at all. They are they are the equivalent of the Cowboys during the Great Wall. You have a fullback, you have a halfback, and you run out the I formation, the pro set all the time.
Yeah.
So there is no shotgun. But this is something that can be easily remedied this year if he's been working with Dak.
and we've seen the behind the scenes footage, like just through the Instagrams and social media and stuff like that. They've been working a lot, and so I mean, if Biadasz can just turn up and actually be like the player, especially like what we expect to see from. I know we're kind of saying it's expectations. And that's something that's never going to go away from being a Dallas Cowboys fan. We're always going to have that high expectation. And we want Super Bowls. That's it. End of story.
Yeah.
Like if you're not cutting the mustard, then we're going to get someone else in by the following season. By the way how we're doing things right now in the draft, we're not doing that,
Yeah. I think to be fair to Tyler Biadasz, and Lauren kind of expanded on it, and I'm just going to add a couple of points on it. Before the end of the season, in October, November of 2018, and into December before he got injured, Tyler Biadasz was considered a first-round talent.
It was, yes, before the injury. Before
that injury, but the one thing with Tyler Biadasz was, and again, Lauren highlighted this, Tyler Biadasz was handing the ball off to his quarterback, who was then handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor went for nearly 2,000 yards in his last season in 2018 in Wisconsin. So it was the system. He wasn't playing out of shotgun snaps. And I do agree with what Graham's point is, that's not good enough at the NFL level.
No,
it's something that needs to be worked on, because otherwise we're looking at our left guard and our center are just guys who we don't know what they're good at, and that's not good enough if we want to win Super Bowls.
Well, here's the thing, though. The things we Biadasz, I do love. He can block. He can definitely block. We know that for a fact. It's just it's the inconsistency with the handoffs, and that's it. It's like we've had over snap too high, and it's through through Dak or Andy Dalton at the time. It just kind of threw them right off, and there was just the lack of communication as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of those things, those things can be corrected given the time off season. So we know the physical attributes we can deliver when things do go right. It can be like I can't remember what game it was, but he was absolutely flawless in one of them last year. But obviously, the game after that, he just completely went. That's the problem as well. It's the inconsistency as well.
If I ask the question, and I'm asking here as a guy who's never played offensive line, so I'm relying on yourself and on Paul and Lauren on this one. Is it a case of it's on the quarterback, and like Biadasz played with Andy Dalton, who had 9-10 years experience, is not on the quarterback for him to go in and tell the center what he wants and how he wants it, and work with the center rather than the center who's a rookie telling the quarterback.
Oh no, it's. I definitely would. I don't know what Lauren would think, but I would rather be preferred if a quarterback tell me what he would want, shift it to the
Yeah.
like. It depends how you like if you're like
Yeah.
throwing the ball underneath your leg. It's too much to the left or too much to the right. You need to adjust your hand grip ever so slightly to make it suit your quarterback. So it's to help the preference with the quarterback. That's what I would think is the best.
Yep.
Like, I never played center specifically, but that's what I would expect if I was to play that position, because I'd be like, it's my throw okay? I'd be asking questions back to my quarterback. It's like, that's too much to the right. I'm catching the way over here rather than front facing, getting set to throw the ball. So there's those aspects. But at the same time, and I'm always going to highlight out, like people say quarterback is the most important position, which is true, but I still think centre is probably the second highest, most important position, if not equal, because if you don't have a good centre can snap the ball to your quarterback, you've got no offense. And the ball starts with him. It's your centre point. It's why they call centre. So it's start of everything.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be fair, Graham, that's the point you always make.
Sorry, I didn't even let Lauren to get an answer on that as well.
No.
I'll come back to you in a second, Lauren, but I mean, I think that's, Graham, that's the one point you always make, is the game starts with the centre, not the quarterback. But what I was trying to say, and Paul, you kind of answered the question, is it really is on the quarterback to go in, give the centre a slap on the arse and say, this is how I want the damn ball. And a guy of Andy Dalton's experience didn't do that last year. And tell Beatit, hey, rookie, this is what I want.
Don't forget Ben DiNucci and Blaine Gabbert as well. Don't forget that.
True.
Yep. I certainly think when you're talking about snapping shotgun and the the further back from the line of scrimmage that you're snapping the ball to, it certainly has an effect. It's a lot of we always hear about quarterbacks that are coming out of college and they're used to taking snaps as in the shotgun. They're not used to taking snaps under center. And it works the same way for centers as well. If they're used to snapping shotgun, but not used to snapping up into their backside for where the quarterback's hands are waiting, it can be something that you need to actually pick up on. And maybe last year again with all the structure with the COVID protocols and everything like that wasn't something that they could properly work on. But again, you had different quarterbacks, different offensive line combinations. We weren't expecting last year that Beatit was going to be a starter at the beginning of the season. That we basically said that Joe Looney was going to be the starter last year, and he was. And then obviously Looney had to go to guard. Beatit came in that Seattle game, played well enough while Dak was there, and Dak could perhaps pick up some of the inadequacies of his shotgun snaps. It can sometimes be something that you need to physically work on. We talked about Quinn Miners, that you saw him snapping balls into trash cans and using that for target practice. I have to say, I mean, I had difficulty when I was playing that. I was good at snapping shotgun, but you asked me to long snap for extra points, which is only another couple of yards back or whatever. I'm sorry, I didn't have the accuracy for that. So everybody has their own techniques, and it's something that you have to basically work on.
Lauren, you make a good point there, right? And this is part of my thing with the Quinn Miners thing, right? He could snap balls into dustbins. He didn't have two guards or defensive linemen tackling him at the time he was doing that. So it's easy to do it, But Graham, there's Arnie.
Yeah, he wanted
to get up.
He just woke up though, so I think he needs the toilet. Big yawn.
Yeah, there we go. Graham, I'm going to throw this one to you, right? the 2021 season finishes,
God.
right?
Right. Okay.
Yourself and Rich Jones are having the conversation. Are you going to be having the conversation whereby we're looking to get a new left guard and a new centre in next year's draft? Or do you think one or both of the guys at those positions will be able to nail the spot this year? Do you have faith in them?
Well, normally all the best tackles are gone at 32. So
My man.
I was going to say, are we talking February 14th?
I mean, it does sound like I'm having a bit of a moan tonight, but if the 5 offensive linemen can hold their own and play 16 games,
17.
See, even I'm doing it. 17 games. If they can play 17 games, I think I would be quite. To be honest, I would be quite happy with that, because you can't address everything. I know you can't address everything, but I have serious doubts, particularly at tackle, that they won't. I've said tonight. I've said a few times in the past. Josh Ball will play at least one game from offensive tackle. It will probably be in December, and it will probably be an NFC East game. Tyron Smith is not going to play forever, so I think it's highly likely that we'll take a tackle. That is a serious staring competition that's going on over there.
Honestly, fuck, man. He's literally looking at me and he's like, right, you prick, I need it signed. Oh, my boy.
But to answer your question, Brian, I would say that it's more likely that they take tackle than centre, because Biadish is on the ascendancy, hopefully, and Tyron Smith won't play forever, even if he wants to. He won't play forever.
Well, he's 30 years old. How many years does he have left?
Yeah,
and he's got
10 years.
Kids to worry about.
10 years in the NFL. He's been,
I mean,
yeah.
But it's like, I mean, I've wanted offensive line help for some time. So has Rich, and in my opinion, we haven't taken it seriously. We've addressed something else. We've tried to bring in a linebacker. We've tried another linebacker. We've tried defensive end, and we won't talk about the D end. There's rumors that there were rumors that we're getting rid of Van Der Esch, so that hasn't particularly worked out, and we'll see where we go with Parsons. But I think in the past, certainly in the past 10 years, it's been shown that when we take offensive line in the first, we hit, and when we take offensive line outside the first, we don't.
It's only been recently though, like it's ever since the whole Travis thing, really, like from 2014.
Travis was 2013. Zach was 2014.
2013. So that's what 8 years, like of all. Well, actually before that, because like if it's 10 years ago, it'd be 2011. So that'd be Tyron Smith. So 2011, right?
Tyron was 2010.
2010, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, so 2010 onwards, any first round draft pick has always been like a blue chip. Like, well, no, basically they've all went straight to the Pro Bowl, being brilliant, sublime, fantastic. But anyone's like that you just kind of mentioned, like anything like in the second round, they've just kind of been whatever not. So, it's.
I think given we've covered in full the offensive line, Arnie needs to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I think it's time we wrapped it up. So it's before we go, we'll just give a quick shout out to our sponsor, So, anyone want to do the honors?
So, guys, if you are planning going to a Dallas Cowboys game this year, please be sure to go through Cowboys Experience for the ultimate meet and greet, tailgate, and game day experience. With everything now kind of going in our favour now with the whole COVID-19 situation, the UK and US are now in the amber section, and with more announcements to come out, we're more likely to actually have to travel over to games this year. So if you are planning on going over, be sure to go and check out the website, cowboysexperience.com, and be sure to use the discount code at UK Cowboys, and you shall receive a free gift.
Yep.
Lauren, what do we say?
Don't be a clown. Use the code. Get free stuff.
There we go.
There we go. So it's good night from me, Paul and Ernie. If you want to say good night.
Bye-bye.
Lauren, Graham, good night. Pleasure as always. We'll be back here 9 o'clock next Thursday night, 3 p.m. Texas time, 4 a.m. on the east, or 4 p.m. on the East Coast, and 1 p.m. on the West Coast. Until then, take care and good night.
See you later, guys. All the best.
See you next time.
Have a good one, guys.